Lovely viewers, the story of Lee Min-ho and Song Hye-kyo sharing a quiet Christmas moment away from cameras, away from noise, and closer to the kind of peace that only comes when you stop performing for the world and simply exist together. As the year drew toward its final days, the entertainment industry was anything but quiet. Award ceremonies, end-of-year galas, brand events, and glossy magazine features filled timelines and headlines. Everywhere you looked, celebrities were dressed in sequins and velvet, waving to flashing bulbs, smiling on cue. Yet somewhere beyond that glow, Lee Min-ho and Song Hye-kyo made a choice that felt almost radical in its simplicity. They chose privacy. They chose rest. They chose Christmas not as a spectacle but as a pause. Those who follow both stars closely know how rare such a decision is. Lee Min-ho, whose presence alone can turn an airport arrival into a viral event, has spent much of his career living under a microscope. Song Hye-kyo, whose face has become synonymous with elegance and emotional depth, understands better than most the weight of public expectation. Every outfit, every appearance, every expression is analyzed, discussed, and archived. And yet, this Christmas, there were no official photo shoots, no festive Instagram posts tagged with luxury brands, no carefully curated holiday couple images released to the press. Instead, there was silence. And in that silence, fans sensed something deeply intentional. Imagine them waking up on Christmas morning not to assistants knocking on doors or stylists rushing in with garment bags, but to quiet. Perhaps there was soft music playing or maybe just the sound of winter outside. No schedule pinned to the wall. No cameras waiting. Just time. Time to breathe. Time to reflect. Time to be present with one another. Sources close to their circle whispered that the two opted for a low-key location far from Seoul's busy center, somewhere discreet and calm. Not a luxury resort designed to attract attention, but a private space where they could blend into the background, where Christmas decorations weren't meant for photos but for warmth. A place where lights were chosen because they felt comforting, not because they photographed well. Think about what Christmas means when you strip away the performance. For many of us, it's about warmth, about shared meals, about conversations that stretch late into the night. It's about memories, old wounds, hopes for the coming year. For Lee Min-ho and Song Hye-kyo, both having lived lives of immense success and equally immense pressure, Christmas becomes something even more precious. It's a chance to reconnect with the parts of themselves that existed before fame demanded constant output. There's something profoundly moving about imagining them cooking together, or perhaps choosing not to cook at all and ordering something simple they both love. No 5-course meal prepared by professionals, just comfort food. Maybe they laughed about a dish gone wrong or shared stories from their childhoods, the kind of stories that rarely make it into interviews. Stories about family traditions, about Christmases before the spotlight, about moments that shaped who they are today. Fans often wonder what celebrities talk about when the cameras are gone. Do they discuss scripts and ratings, or do they talk about fears, dreams, and doubts just like everyone else? In a quiet Christmas setting, it's easy to imagine Lee Min-ho and Song Hye-kyo talking about the year that had passed, the projects that challenged them, the moments that hurt, the lessons learned. Perhaps there were conversations about slowing down, about choosing quality over quantity, about protecting what truly matters. What makes this story resonate so deeply with fans is not grand gestures or dramatic announcements, but the absence of them. In an era where love is often performed for likes and validation, choosing privacy feels intimate and sincere. It suggests a bond that doesn't require constant affirmation from the outside world. It suggests confidence, trust, and a shared understanding that some moments are too sacred to be shared publicly. You, our lovely viewers, know how often celebrity relationships are consumed, dissected, and sometimes exhausted by public attention. Every smile becomes evidence. Every absence sparks rumors. Against that backdrop, a quiet Christmas away from cameras feels like a soft rebellion. It's a reminder that even those we place on pedestals are human, craving the same peace and connection we all seek during the holidays. As Christmas Day unfolded, there were no paparazzi shots to confirm their location, no leaked videos, no insider photos circulating online. And instead of disappointment, Many fans felt relief. Relief that for once, two people they admire were allowed to exist without intrusion. Social media buzzed not with images, but with speculation wrapped in warmth. Fans shared messages wishing them peace, happiness, and rest. Some even said they preferred not seeing photos, believing that the absence meant the moment was truly theirs. Picture the evening setting in, lights dimming, perhaps a candle flickering softly. Outside, the world continues its endless motion, but inside, time slows. Maybe they watched a movie, something nostalgic rather than trendy. Maybe they didn't watch anything at all, choosing instead to sit in comfortable silence, a silence that only feels good when you're with the right person. Christmas has a way of magnifying emotions. Joy feels warmer, loneliness feels heavier, and love feels more necessary. For two people who have both experienced public highs and very public scrutiny, sharing Christmas quietly could feel grounding. It's a moment to remember that before they were icons, they were individuals learning how to navigate life. There's also something symbolic about choosing quiet during a season of noise. The entertainment industry thrives on visibility, especially during holidays when content is king. Choosing not to participate sends a subtle message. Not everything meaningful needs to be documented. Some experiences are meant to be felt, not posted. Fans who followed Lee Min-ho's journey know how deeply he values sincerity. Time and again, he has spoken about wanting to live honestly, about not losing himself to the expectations placed upon him. Song Hye-kyo, too, has often emphasized emotional authenticity, both in her work and personal reflections. Their shared Christmas choice aligns perfectly with those values. As the night deepened, maybe they exchanged gifts that weren't extravagant, but thoughtful. A book, a handwritten note, something personal. Gifts that say, "I see you," rather than, "Look at me." These are the kinds of moments that don't make headlines but build something lasting. And as viewers, as fans, as people who've invested emotionally in their stories, we're invited not to witness the details, but to respect the space. There's beauty in that respect. There's maturity in celebrating someone's happiness without demanding proof. The following days after Christmas came and went, and still there was no official word, no confirmation, no denial. Just a quiet return to schedules, projects, and public life. But something lingered in the air, a softness, a sense that something real had been protected. And as those quiet days settled back into routine, something subtle but meaningful began to ripple outward, not through official statements or glossy interviews, but through the way people talked about them. Fans noticed a gentler tone in conversations online. Instead of demanding updates or proof, many began sharing messages about boundaries, about growth, about how refreshing it felt to admire two people without consuming every detail of their lives. It was as if that unseen Christmas moment had quietly shifted the energy around them. Lovely viewers, this is where the story deepens, because the impact of a private choice doesn't end when the holiday decorations come down. It lingers in attitude, in perspective, in how people move forward. For Lee Min-ho and Song Hye-kyo, returning to public schedules after Christmas didn't feel like stepping back into a cage, but more like carrying a small, protected flame with them. A reminder of calm in the middle of chaos. Those who saw them separately in the days that followed noticed something difficult to describe but easy to feel. Softness. A steadiness. Lee Min-ho appeared more relaxed during brief public appearances, smiling with a kind of ease that didn't feel rehearsed. Song Hye-kyo, too, carried herself with a quiet confidence, her expressions thoughtful, grounded, as if she had recently been reminded of something essential. There were no obvious clues, no overt references to Christmas, but sometimes the most powerful changes are internal. What's beautiful here is how this continuation of their story doesn't rely on new drama or revelation. Instead, it unfolds through consistency, through the choice to protect what matters even after the holiday glow fades, through understanding that intimacy isn't seasonal. It's a practice. Imagine them returning to busy days, early mornings, packed schedules, but still finding small echoes of that Christmas quiet. Maybe it's a shared glance during a stressful moment, a message sent just to check in, or a memory that brings calm when the noise grows loud. These are the things we don't see, but they shape everything. Fans too began reflecting inward. Many commented about how this story made them rethink their own relationship with social media. Some shared how they decided to spend more intentional time with loved ones, inspired by the idea that not every meaningful moment needs an audience. Others spoke about learning to appreciate celebrities not as content machines, but as people navigating life under extraordinary pressure. And that's where this continuation becomes inclusive, because it's no longer just about Lee Min-ho and Song Hye-kyo. It's about all of us. It's about the collective pause we're invited into when public figures choose restraint over exposure. Their quiet Christmas becomes a shared lesson, one that gently asks, what are we holding sacred? There's also something profoundly hopeful in knowing that even in an industry driven by visibility, it's still possible to choose invisibility for the right reasons. That success doesn't have to mean constant access. That love doesn't have to be loud to be real. As the new year unfolded, speculation inevitably returned, because curiosity is human. But it was noticeably softer, less demanding. Instead of "where are they?" people asked, "Are they happy?" Instead of "why aren't they showing us?" the question became, "How can we respect this?" That shift matters. It signals growth not just for the individuals involved, but for the community around them. Lovely viewers, think about how rare it is for a celebrity story to encourage restraint rather than obsession, to inspire empathy rather than entitlement. That's the quiet power of this moment. And perhaps someday Lee Min-ho and Song Hye-kyo will choose to share more. Or perhaps they won't. Either way, that Christmas remains theirs. Untouched, unfiltered, whole. A memory that belongs to them alone, and yet somehow still manage to give something to the world. As we continue following their journeys, let's carry that same energy forward. Let's celebrate talent without ownership, love without intrusion, and stories without demanding every page. Because sometimes, the most meaningful chapters are the ones we're never invited to read. So, lovely viewers, as you move forward into your own days, busy or quiet, public or private, remember this continuation not as an ending, but as an open space. A reminder that peace is powerful, privacy is precious, and some moments are most beautiful when they're simply lived. And that spirit continues to shape how this story quietly breathes rather than loudly announces itself. From that open space we last left you in, the narrative doesn't rush forward. It unfolds slowly, the way real life does when it isn't being edited for applause. Lovely viewers, what followed after that unspoken Christmas wasn't a sudden shift in headlines, but a deepening sense of intention. Lee Min-ho and Song Hye-kyo seemed to move through the early weeks of the year with an unhurried rhythm, as though they had agreed, without saying a word, to carry the stillness of December into January and beyond. In an industry that often treats rest as a luxury, this quiet continuity felt deliberate, almost protective. Observers noticed that neither of them leaned into nostalgia for the holidays in public remarks. There were no sentimental interviews referencing the past season, no poetic captions hinting at candlelight or winter evenings. And yet, there was a quiet alignment in their choices. Both selected projects thoughtfully, spaced their commitments carefully, and appeared less reactive to the constant churn of speculation. It was as if that unseen Christmas moment had given them clarity, a shared understanding of what deserved energy and what did not. And this is where the story widens again to include all of us. Because how often do we allow ourselves that same clarity? How often do we move from one year to the next carrying exhaustion instead of intention? Watching two highly visible figures choose continuity over chaos gently challenges us to consider how we want to step into our own days. There's something profoundly human about realizing that peace isn't created in grand gestures, but in repeated, quiet decisions. To say no when necessary, to protect time, to value connection over commentary. Lee Min-ho and Song Hye-kyo didn't make a statement about privacy. They lived it. And in doing so, they modeled a form of strength that doesn't raise its voice. Fans began to mirror that energy in subtle ways. Comment sections grew less urgent, more reflective. Instead of demands, there were wishes. Instead of theories, there were expressions of gratitude, for their work, their honesty, their humanity. Some viewers even shared how this story encouraged them to reconnect with people they love, to plan smaller gatherings, to be more present in conversations that don't need witnesses. Lovely viewers, this is how influence truly works. Not through trend cycles or viral moments, but through resonance. A quiet Christmas becomes a ripple, and that ripple touches lives far beyond its origin. As time passed, the absence of shared details didn't weaken interest. It refined it. People weren't watching for proof anymore. They were watching with patience. And patience, in today's world, is a rare and beautiful thing. Suggests trust. Suggests respect. Imagine how freeing that must feel, to know that your silence is not being interpreted as distance, but as depth, that your choice to keep something private is being honored rather than punished. For Lee Min-ho and Song Hye-kyo, this unspoken understanding between them and their audience became another layer of calm, another reason to keep choosing intention. And perhaps the most meaningful part of this continuation is realizing that there is no climax coming. No dramatic reveal waiting at the end of this story. Because not every narrative needs resolution to be complete. Some are complete precisely because they are ongoing, because they are allowed to exist without being finalized. So as we sit with this chapter, lovely viewers, let's resist the urge to rush ahead. Let's allow the story to remain gentle. Let's appreciate that sometimes the greatest act of love, whether between two people or between public figures and their audience, is mutual restraint. If you're listening to this and feeling a sense of calm, that's not accidental. That's the gift of a story that isn't trying to impress you, simply inviting you to breathe. Carry that breath with you, into your routines, your relationships, your choices. Let it remind you that you don't owe the world constant access to your joy, your healing, or your love.